Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 529. Our favorite games that have transitioned from media to the game table.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
I bet there's a Star Wars game on my list.
I can almost guarantee it. I bet there's a Lord of the Rings game on mine.
Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Go to their website, find a perfect topper that will go into your home and enhance every game night you have with a game topper from GameToppersLLC.com.
Fantastic. Well, we are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I am Douglas Stewart.
And I am Nathan Howard.
And we are once again down in Andy, who is dealing with mandatory overtime at work. Our hearts go out to him.
He's had a rough couple of nights. Our last game night at his house, he was rather boisterous about his frustrations with some of the circles they seem to be running through and around. Some of these circles sound like they're on fire as they're running around through.
Yeah,
and so
definitely sounds that way. Well, he does work for a company that are in the middle of some big projects. So
yes.
We definitely understand that, and we wish him all the best. Meeple Nation has a website, and we would love it if you would go and check it out. That's meeplenation.com, where we've got blogs, photos, links to all of our past episodes, a little bit more about us, a link to our Patreon account for those interested in supporting the show financially, which we absolutely love because it allows us to improve the podcast in a whole host of different ways. And of course, we would love to hear from you. So please drop us a line at meeplenation@gmail.com.
All right, Doug, it is time to talk about some highlights. Do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
Sure. I can go first.
That wasn't a sure question. It was either you or me. Why don't you go?
So I said sure.
I guess that works. It is either you or I. Yes.
I can totally go first. The game I wanted to talk about. Are you comfortable for a minute?
Let me lean back. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm super excited about this. I am finally getting around to playing Tainted Grail. So not only is this one that I've wanted to play for a really long time, but this is one that is a shelf of shame game. All right. So I am definitely ashamed that it has been on my shelf for this long. Now, there was a time, maybe a year and a half ago, I did pull it off the shelf, and I kind of learned the rules, and I played through kind of the opening like tutorial mission kind of thing, but didn't play any beyond that. In fact, it was short enough and sweet enough that I didn't even log it in my plays. So I'm not counting this as a game that has been played in the past, even though I've dabbled. I dipped my toe in it just a little tiny bit. Okay, finally got this one to the table, got the rules all figured out and read. Holy cow. Okay, Tainted Grail is a masterpiece.
Oh, really?
Okay, it is a masterpiece when it comes to telling a narrative story. Now, it helps if you love that Arthurian legend vibe. Mm-hmm. It particularly helps if you like sort of that grim, dark, gothic twist on the Arthurian legend. This definitely is a game that is not for the faint of heart. It is brutal. It will challenge you in a lot of different ways, but its narrative is absolutely fantastic. During the time of Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table and the Red Death, this plague has come to visit Camelot and the land. So Arthur takes all of his knights and his people, anyone who he can manage, he loads them all on ships and they go out across the sea. Well, they land on this strange place called Avalon, where it is inhabited by what's known as the Four Dwellers, this sort of almost alien race kind of thing. And it's sort of at the edge of what you would call, like the edge of the world or the edge of existence, right? Where there's a force called the Weirdness that is creeping into this land of Avalon where these Four Dwellers reside. Anyway, 600 years ago, Arthur and his knights, inch by inch, reclaim Avalon, and they build New Camelot, spelled with a K instead of a C. So they reestablish a capital, and there's all this history, all this stuff that happened on, like I said, 600 years has passed. and the weirdness is creeping back into the world. There's all this strange stuff happening. You've got these big statues, the menhirs, that were built to keep the weirdness at bay, and they are failing. So this is all the narrative setup for this game. Now, you need help. You need to go to Camelot and seek help for your little farming village.
Camelot with a K or a C?
Camelot with a K.
Okay.
So they send the best that they can spare. And you are not one of the best. That expedition has already left and has been lost. No one's heard back from them. So you're next up. You're the next best
The second string.
You're the second string, the JV team, so to speak. Basically, you've got to go out and find out what happened to that expedition, what's going on across the land of Avalon, how the weirdness is changing the land. You've got to keep these menhirs lit so that you can drive the weirdness back. And you're uncovering all of this stuff, right, about what the knights are up to and what they're doing. You get to meet the Lady of the Lake, right? You get to kind of dabble in all of these things that are just these incredible kind of characters and plots that are steeped in that Arthurian legend setting. The art in this game is fantastic. The components are awesome. Of course, I had to get the really nice version of it, so it's all the sun-dropped minis and metal everything and all that good stuff. I'm absolutely loving it. Now, from a mechanics standpoint, maybe not so much of a masterpiece. The game can be pretty frustrating at times. It is fairly brutal and it is tough. Some of the encounters that you deal with are going to be really difficult, and built into the cake with this game is the mechanism, the ability that your characters have to essentially run away. And you will definitely find yourself running away from things on a regular basis because there is just stuff out in the world that you cannot take on or conquer or deal with.
So it's a lot like real life.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But I have just been having such a fantastic time playing this game. I will admit there have been times that I've been playing through the game and I've come up across something and I felt like, ooh, I am willing to bet that there are people who gave up playing this game at this point. Like it's that hard, or who just basically got killed and probably I had to restart or just stop playing altogether. There are definitely some encounters and some story, parts that you have to find and fight your way through that get pretty brutal. But if you kind of persevere and push forward, it's an incredibly rewarding game. It definitely rewards exploration. It's got a lot going on. You can, in fact, the more you explore, the better you're going to do, the more opportunities you take to gain experience and resources to hunt for food and do all these things, the better. And of course, the game is littered with side quests. So there's kind of the main quest that takes you through everything, but there's little mysteries and stuff all along the way that you've got to go and explore and figure out. I love that. I'm on chapter 6 of this, what is essentially, I think, a 15 chapter game. So I'm about a third of the way through it, and I have just been eating it up, just gobbling it up. It's so good.
So that's what I was going to ask, if this was a campaign game.
It is.
Okay.
Yep. Now, it's one of those where it's kind of designed to, like, it does have a save system. So you save it, put it all away, and then you can get it back out and recreate the board like it was when you left it. The advantage to having a game room with multiple tables is I can just set this up and leave it.
That is
and
nice.
So I can kind of work through those chapters a little faster without all the setup and tear down in between each game.
Yeah.
But man, Tainted Grail, it's so good. And then they have, so the original game, The Fall of Avalon, there's also The Red Death, The Last Night, and there's one other one, and I can't remember what it was. It'll come to me. Anyway, there's essentially 4 campaigns that you can play through with that original game. And then Kings of Ruin just showed up on my doorstep like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I got that all ready to go. So Tainted Grail and all of its stories, plus Kings of Ruin and all of its stories, they may be set up on my table for quite some time.
Maybe for the rest of the year?
Maybe for the rest of the year, possibly beyond. It's going to take a significant amount of time to go through everything. Also, as I'm going through the game, it has very much a branching story. Definitely are not doing everything, or you can make different choices at certain points. It's definitely one of those that I'm like, oh man, the next time I play this, I'm going to make that decision, right? I'm going to do this different. It's kind of cool that it's leading me to, I'm almost anticipating playing it a second time just to uncover some of those hidden stories and moments. This is one that'll be set up at the table, I'm sure, for a very long time.
All right. Well, that was quite a highlight.
Yeah. Sorry.
No,
I didn't mean to
great.
just blurt all that out there, but I am really, really impressed with this game. And I know a lot of people are. It's been out for quite a while. It's a new experience to me, and I am just loving it.
Well, that's awesome. I got the chance to play Let's Go to Japan.
Also a fantastic game.
Yeah. So the first time we played it here, We had 5 people. We had 6 people. My neighbor across the street, he showed up, and I very much wanted to make sure that he felt included and got the chance to play. So I taught and just kind of watched as everybody played and answered questions as we went through it. And I have since played it 4 times now.
Wow.
I've played it with my wife. I played it with our friend Mike. Both of those were 2-player games, and this game is great 2 players.
Awesome.
Very fast. Those decisions are made a lot quicker. We got a chance to play it with some other friends. A little bit of paralysis that was creeping in did not kill the game at all. Everybody was playing, had a couple of turns where all of us were, I don't know which one to do, because you're trying to manage when you're going to take trains, when you're going to swap from Tokyo to Kyoto, as you're planning out your itinerary for this trip to Japan, trying to make all the highlights that you can see and make all those highlights rewarding and find those highlights of the day that are going to give you more points.
Yeah.
This game is awesome.
It really is. It's super fun to play.
I very much look forward to playing it anytime I can. One I'll be teaching at SalCon Summer. If it goes well, maybe it's one that I'll teach again at end of summer. It's very easy, accessible, quick to learn. As you're playing, it does take some time to digest because as you're trying to plan that itinerary. But Let's Go to Japan is a great game. 2 thumbs up.
Yeah. Plus, it makes me want to actually go do all the things that I've planned in the board game.
Yeah.
Makes me want to go back to Japan so bad.
Yep.
It really is a fun game with great components, great art. Everything in this, I think, is really... Now, you did get the Kickstarter Deluxe Edition, but everything in that edition is just superb. The game is great, and this is one I want to play again really soon.
Anxious to play it anytime. It's a great game.
Excellent. I'm really glad to see that one's climbing the group, list. It seems like if there's a game that one of us likes, we struggle to get it to the table. But if like 3 or 4 of us really like it, it gets to the table a lot more, like Maracaibo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we have a tendency to play those games more often. So I'm excited that we've got multiple of us that really like this one. It means we're going to get to play it more often, which is something that I love.
Yeah. All too often we have a game where just one of us likes, and then like Mind Management, a great game that I ended up calling because I just don't think I'm ever going to get it to the table again. So, but yeah, Let's Go to Japan. It's going to be an evergreen for us, I believe.
Fantastic. Well, Nathan, I am excited to talk about today's topic. This is our wild card episode. It's one of our wild card episodes. So we're not following our typical formula. We're kind of trying to break out of that just a little bit and talk about something maybe a little different. So this is our favorite games that have transitioned from media to the game table. So stuff from books, movies, TVs, that kind of thing.
Yep. And
they now exist on the tabletop for us to enjoy. Here's my question. Do I need to just sit back for a little while and let you just run with Star Wars games?
I have a lot of Star Wars games.
Yeah, you really do.
And I tried to compile a list of like my top 10 of these games. I was surprised. Okay, yeah, there's still 4 Star Wars games on there.
Yeah,
but
you took all of them that you had, you made like a top 10 list. There was still almost half the list was Star Wars.
Yeah, almost. Because Star Wars is a great medium. I mean, such a big part of my childhood. Kids these days, Star Wars, most movies in general don't mean as much as they did then as they do now. Yeah, I just don't see kids these days get excited about something.
Everything these days is so accessible and disposable. Yeah. That anticipation, it's just not the same, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big deal for me as a kid, waiting for some of these movies to come out and watching the trailers and just the anticipation and waiting, and then you'd see them and it was like, oh, I can't wait. I think back to like Jurassic Park. I was a 10-year-old kid. The idea of this park full of dinosaurs just blew my mind. And I remember just watching that trailer and anticipating. It hit the theaters and, went with mom and dad. It was like the best thing that I've ever seen. I was counting down the days till that came out on VHS, right?
Yeah,
so I could
VHS.
go buy my copy, and man, I wore that thing out, right? That just doesn't exist. And this is totally making us sound like old men, but you're right. That same thing doesn't really exist for good and bad. We don't have that same anticipation, but there's also way more out there and it's way more accessible.
Yeah.
And we can consume it, I think, a little bit more casually, which is good, but I do think that it takes away from some of that really fun anticipation that comes from some of those properties. But I think that's a fun conversation to have because I still get some of that anticipation when some of those properties come to the tabletop.
Yeah.
I think that's why I still get really excited. If we start talking about some of these games, I think that's why I still get really excited about the idea of Star Wars Imperial Assault. I love Star Wars. I have so many positive memories that are associated with Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then when I think about the experience you can have playing Imperial Assault,
which is
at the
also
table,
positive,
which is just like pure Star Wars in a box. It's so good. I just think about that and I'm like, I want to do that.
Yes.
And I'm building it up in my head. I'm thinking, man, when we finally get around to playing that again, it's going to be so good. And I'm going to play this character. And like if Nathan plays the Imperial character, we're going to kick his butt. Like, it's like, I'm just thinking about how that whole experience is going to go down. And I totally recognize that my nostalgia and fondness for some of those is definitely playing into that.
For sure.
But I've also played the game and I know it's great. Some of it's founded and some of it's not. Some of it's just pure nerd tax. And we'll talk about some of these titles that are definitely nerd tax.
Yeah. And that same feeling of something that I haven't played is, and we've talked several times about our G.I. Joe role-playing experience that we're doing.
Yeah.
And I have put a ton of effort into creating this story and trying to bring the conflict of Cobra and the starts of G.I. Joe. I mean, I got conspiracy board, right? I got pictures of everything. I got strings going from here to there to there. At the same point, I'm really scared to bring it because everything that is in my mind and trying to transition that through my mouth into someone else's ears, there's going to be parts of that translation that gets lost. Because in my mind, it's amazing.
Yes.
When we sit down, I'm just nervous that I'm going to botch it and I'm going to be so mad at myself because I didn't portray it right.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I just have all these G.I. Joe thoughts going everywhere. And it's kind of funny. Anytime I'll see something on TV, like news, they're talking about finding some tunnels here somewhere. And I'm like, ooh, I can play that into Cobra Commander's realm of trying to acquire relics from the beyond to help bring him mystical powers or supernatural powers, and even bringing in the role of Serpentor, right, where you're trying to get DNA from these great rulers of the old times.
Nathan, hearing you talk makes me feel like I've stepped back into the 80s.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because you bring up that my daughters and I are way excited that on Wednesday we're going to go see the original Transformers 80s cartoon.
Yeah.
The original Transformers, something that I shared with my kids. And my kids watched all of the 80s cartoons. They have their own copy of the DVDs. They don't have a DVD player anymore, but they have a copy of the DVDs. I'm way excited for this experience, for us to go to the theater to see this in it. Hopefully it's going to be, sounds improved. It is still going to be the original, but just all that experience of going and seeing it in the theater. I am way excited about this.
Yeah, that'll be way fun.
But no Transformers game made my list.
Unfortunately. Yeah. Well, there's not really a lot of great Transformers. So there was the deck builder game,
which
the
is
Transformers
good.
Deck builder, and you have that.
I do.
I still haven't played it. I'd really like you to play that with me at some point because that is one I want to try out, mostly because of the nostalgia.
Yep.
No idea whether it'll be like really good or not, but the nostalgia factor is definitely there for me. I really want to try that one. But let's start breaking some of these games down because there's a lot. Like I said, some have all the nostalgia attached to them. Some of them are amazing. Some of them have been done so well. Others are just pure nerd tax. It was the nostalgia that drove us to buy it. It wasn't good, and it now sits on the shelf. So let's start talking about some of them. When I went through and made my list, I did it in alphabetical. I'm not necessarily going to go in alphabetical order down my list, but I will start off with the first one on my list, which was Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core. Whether you love or hate the Aliens franchise, which I did think, the original Alien I thought was pretty good for its time. It was amazing, right? All of the special effects and everything that Ridley Scott used making that original film clear back in the day was really quite remarkable. Kind of a fun movie, thematic and moody, dark vibe
gritty.
to it. But then you had Aliens, just Aliens, right? You added the S.
Yes.
And that was the James Cameron.
Is it James? Yeah, James Cameron.
Yeah, and this was the one with over-the-top Marine Corps that goes into the base, and they all get wiped out by the aliens in the end. But then you had Sigourney Weaver who went in, and
Was
you
the
know
lone
she had
survivor.
the machine gun and the blowtorch and all that
the
stuff.
load
and just-
lifter.
yeah, and then the final battle with her load lifter. Anyway, really cool movie, especially for the time. Again, this was like at the time was really pushing the technology for making movies. There's definitely some nostalgia, some love for that old franchise, that old movie that exists. Another Glorious Day in the Corps manages to capture that very, very well.
Does it?
It really
I need
does.
to play that then.
Yeah. So you set up a mission, you get to pick one of the characters, right, to play, and you are just fending off waves and waves of zombies while you're trying to
Not zombies, but aliens.
Sorry. You're trying to fight off waves and waves of the aliens. And if you can't see them, they're just blips. Like you don't know what they are. You know, just like in the movie, like the blips on the radar kind of thing. They're blips. And then when you finally reveal them, you discard the blip token and it will tell you how many aliens to spawn. Like, was it a single alien? Was it a whole horde of aliens? You know, that kind of thing. So it's thematically really cool, but you're trying to just meet different objectives and then get out. You're trying to hit the exit before the game ends. That's a really fun game. I thought it was done really, really well. Now, the big downfall to that game is that it comes with minis that you have to glue and assemble yourselves. Has those minis that you have to put together, and it's laborious and awful, and I hate it. And if it had just come with some good, like, injection plastic, anything like that, I would have been so much happier. Because I've played this, but I played somebody else's copy, and it was awesome.
Because it was already put together.
Because it was already put together. And my copy has been sitting on the shelf for almost a year, only because I just can't find time to put those stupid minis together.
Get that.
So that's kind of the downside to it. But the game is great. And it really does capture that aliens vibe, that whole atmosphere really well. It's done exceptionally well.
Pulling right off of that, one that I know you haven't played, but you really should because I feel it also absorbs that alien feel is Legendary Encounters, an alien deck building game.
Okay.
So this was Upper Deck's first Encounters game. I think it is one of their top shelf games.
Okay.
I mean, not that it's really a top shelf game, but...
Okay. Now, am I going to like this more than Marvel, the Marvel version of Legendary? A Marvel deck building game?
I think you will because of the theme.
Okay.
But you're still going to run into a same mechanics. It's still that semi-cooperative.
Is it the semi-cooperative thing? Okay.
Yeah. Whoever defeats the most aliens is going to be the overall winner.
Gotcha.
But for all of you to win, for you have a chance to win, you have to be able to defeat all of the aliens. If that is a hiccup for you, then it's going to be a hiccup for you in this. But the theme and the way that this works, you have the hallway that is dark. And so you have stuff that's advancing on the dark. And so first you have to search those hallways. That could be something monstrous, or it could be an objective. It could be something beneficial, but you have no idea what that is until you've searched for it. But that does change the game from the Marvel deck buildings. I think that makes the game outstanding. And they tried it with Predator, and the Predator theme just didn't get to me. And you can combine the two, so you can have AVP. Something I never tried, but the Predator just wasn't as well done, I felt.
Yeah.
And it is very similar mold, Aliens. It worked better.
And probably thematically really cool for people who enjoyed both of those franchises, I'm sure. I know a lot of people really love Predator. I couldn't get into that one as much. That just wasn't really my thing. But okay, very cool. We'll have to definitely give that one a shot. This is not one pulled directly, but it's adjacent, right? So some of these titles that I have, I've kind of titled them like it's like adjacent to kind of what we're talking about. So Nemesis, right? Because Nemesis is 100% aliens.
100%.
But not.
Correct.
Because of legal reasons.
Correct.
But it is.
Yes.
But it's not.
Correct.
And it's also not one that I've played. And I really want to play it.
And you own this, right?
I do. Yeah, I picked it up at a con for dirt cheap. I have it on the shelf. I really want to play it. It seems like a fantastic game. I mean, this is Awaken Realms, which I love.
And they do a phenomenal.
They do a phenomenal job.
They do a phenomenal job with their minis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. So I really want to play that, but that's another one, from what I hear, really good and inspired by Killer IP, that property. So moving on a little bit, Nathan, here's a category of game that I think has some real hits and some real stinkers.
Star Wars?
Well, yeah, it does. Yeah, Marvel, all that's tech. Okay. All right. All of them probably fit that category.
Harry Potter.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. But the one that I wanted to talk about really quick was just the writings of H.P. Lovecraft. So those were all books. H.P. Lovecraft wrote all these, the Cthulhu mythos, the Elder Gods mythos, all those books. It's all public realm now. That means that there is a ton of really great stuff and a ton of really awful stuff that is all Cthulhu themed out there. And that's why when anybody says like, oh, you're really into the Cthulhu theme, and it's like, nah, no, not really. The game has to be amazing for me to love it.
Yes.
Now, I do love Arkham Horror, the card game, the living card game, whatever you want to call it. And I also really love Cthulhu Death May Die. Those are just phenomenal, fantastic games that really manage to capture sort of the writing and the vibe. And it's kind of everyone's going insane, really wild and crazy Elder God mythos that manages to just bundle it up into some fantastic stories and mechanics and everything else. I love those. But then on the other end of that spectrum, you've got stuff like Arkham Horror, the board game, or even Eldritch Horror, the board game, which to me fell very, very flat. I really would like to try Final Hour.
Yeah, that's a condensed version, I own.
So I'll give that one a shot. But then you also have like Mansions of Madness. Excellent.
Which is okay. Yeah, I like that.
I think it's really good. Some missions are better than others, for sure.
For sure.
Overall, pretty good. Second edition, in particular, with the app and everything, is really good. And then Unfathomable, right? So they've taken that.
Really good.
They couldn't get the Battlestar Galactica IP to redo that, or whatever the legal battle was there, that they couldn't bring Battlestar Galactica back. And so they just rethemed it with that Cthulhu mythos. They threw that on there. I really liked it. I thought it turned out really good. And Unfathomable, I think, was excellent.
Yeah. Has an expansion coming out soon.
Yeah. And I don't have to worry about getting it because I know you will.
Shut up.
Kind of a mixed bag there. Have you ever read H.P. Lovecraft?
I haven't read any of it.
Okay.
My brother was really big into it. He loved H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay. And I only dabbled just a little bit. So not real heavy on the nostalgia factor, I think, for either one of us. The source material, I don't think, is something either one of us is going to get really overly excited about. But it spawned a whole lot of really great games. And like I said, some bad ones, but there's some really good ones in there too.
I mean, and you brought up Battlestar Galactica, which is probably my all-time favorite social deduction. I didn't put it in my top 10 of this theme ones, which kind of surprises me.
You were kind of just throwing this together on the fly, so I think you need to put some more thought into it.
Maybe, but
although I did notice that Firefly is on there.
Yeah, Firefly for sure is on there.
And that's one I really want to play because I have a ton of nostalgia for Firefly. Yeah. I loved that series. All 13 episodes of it that were just
and only 11 amazing. Of them ever aired.
I was really grateful that they made the Serenity movie, finished off the story. But man, talk about just an amazing story, an amazing cast of characters that was cut short way too early.
Indeed. And that's one that Disney is, since they own Fox, they have the rights to it, and they're talking about redoing it I'm just so nervous about that. I just leave that on the shining hill that it's on, and let us just want more but never have more.
Yeah, no, 100%. Can you beat Nathan Fillion, Gina Torres, and Alan Tudyk? I mean, that cast, right? Was so good.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're going to redo that story, you can't necessarily bring all those people back. I mean, I don't think it'd work, not unless you really fast forward it into the future and made it like old man Firefly kind of thing. Here's the other problem. It would almost have to be a reboot because of the way Serenity, ended. Serenity kind of put the final nail in some people's coffins. I don't know how you would do that exactly, but I'm worried. It really just kind of is one of those things that needs to just exist in its current perfection.
Yes.
And I'm hoping when I play the board game, because we've been waiting for that 10th anniversary box. I've wanted to play this for a long time. And I know this is your jam.
Yep.
And we've been waiting for that 10th anniversary box. It finally showed up a month or two ago. And so I'm really waiting to get to that table. I've got that anticipation I was talking about earlier, that this is going to be good. I can't wait. Kind of eager, chomping at the bit.
Very much so. Firefly the game was my number one for years.
Yeah.
And I've played it, I would say, probably 100 times that I've played this game. I would play it again and again and again and again. It took a long time before Star Wars Imperial Assault kicked it out of there. And now it's probably not even in my top 10, but still such a great game. And I, too, am very much looking forward to getting this 10th anniversary. I had a hard time transitioning from my Big Damn Crate to the 10th anniversary box, but it's nice because you have everybody's components that are right there. You can just pick up a tray, say, boom, there you go. I don't have to fish out your fuel, your resources, it's all just in your tray. You have it. There you go. You can get it out, set it up yourself.
Making setup a breeze.
Yes. I always love it when anything makes setup easier. But yeah, Firefly the game is phenomenal, and it is very much a game worthy of its hype because it does embrace everything about the TV show and Serenity and makes it a near perfect transition from media to game table.
Awesome. I can't wait. I really cannot wait. That's going to be super cool. Well, while we're in space still, Dune, especially with the success of the recent movies, has spawned a whole host of
good and bad
games. From what I hear, I haven't played all of them.
Nope.
Love Dune Imperium though.
Very much so.
Really love Dune Imperium. Mixed reviews for Dune Imperium Uprising. I actually did like it quite a bit. Andy, not so much. Andy,
he is anxious to try it again.
I think his play was a little bit of a fluke, but he really struggled and it made him really frustrated. And then because he was so frustrated, I kept laughing at him.
Which made him more frustrated.
Which only made him more frustrated. But he was getting so upset. It was hard. It was either laugh at him or I don't know, help him flip the table. Because he was so frustrated. He just kept, he had one of the roughest plays I've ever seen somebody have. It was almost like Richie and I were deliberately blocking all of the places that he needed to go. Now, we were not at all. We were just playing our own thing, and oftentimes it was just the way it worked out because we were ahead in the turn order or whatever. But it was like everything he wanted to do, we would take right before he did it. Either nice. Me or Richie. So we need to play that one again. Anyway, that whole Dune Imperium franchise, though, and with the expansions, there was the Rise of Ix and Immortality, really did a great job at capturing the essence of what Dune is.
Yes.
And I thought that both had a really good take on it. I loved, actually, that they used the visual assets of the movie, but then stylized it. It wasn't like they took stills or anything like that. Yep. It was very much its own stylized thing, but it was definitely based off of the aesthetic created by the movies. Really great choice to do. I think that it worked phenomenally well. What a great little worker placement deck building hybrid. The
War of Arrakis, newer one that we've acquired. Haven't tried that one yet. That one also looks really good.
Yeah,
has a ton of little miniatures.
Looking forward to that.
And even the upgraded components for Dune Uprising or Dune Imperium.
Yeah.
Dune has had some great ones, and there's been some that are just slapping that Dune name on a dumb game.
Quick cash, right?
Yep. TV show that I very much enjoyed, Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
yes,
is another one that has had some winners and some losers. But the legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer game and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the board game, both of those games, very much winners. Both embrace a lot of the feel and the theme of the TV show, do it and do it well. G.I. Joe, on the other hand, G.I. Joe has had some winners and some losers.
A while back, you had me try, was it just Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the board game? We played it at BGG Con 2 years ago. Is that what that one was?
I can't remember.
I think that it was...
No, I think it was the board game.
Yeah, just Buffy the Vampire... Yeah, the board game, whatever. Man, as somebody who has not seen... I haven't watched Buffy.
Right.
Okay? So as somebody who hasn't seen it, that game did not mechanically grab me. Like, it's probably not one I would ever really want to play again.
I get that.
Do you feel the enjoyment you get out of that game, do you feel like it is driven primarily because of the nostalgia for Buffy? Or do we just differ in whether or not we think it's a good game?
No, I think you're right. I think a lot of that differentiates my feel for the old theme. I haven't played the Friends and Frenemies expansion. It's all about the graveyard, the high school, trying to incorporate the theme. Brings in the musical episode where everybody's supposed to sing, the Hush episode where nobody can say anything, and it does bring in a lot of that for somebody who watched the show multiple times, very much appreciates.
How many seasons of that are there?
There are 7 of Buffy, 5 of Angel, and...
Oh, man, there were offshoots?
Yeah.
Wow.
So Buffy season 3, Angel season 1 begins, and then they both ended at the same year, which was also very tragic.
Oh man, would they hold the test of time? Like if I went back and tried to watch these, could I do it, Nathan? Could I stand it?
I think you probably could, as long as, I mean, there are some cheesy episodes for sure. And anything that has...
Well, everything I've seen of Buffy is cheese.
And well, you got to get through the first season.
Okay.
First season.
Just the first season.
Is the cheesiest.
All right.
But there is key plot lines that are key information that is key to the series you're introduced to through that first season. And it's only 13 episodes, the first season. Season 2 gets a little bit better. Okay. Season 4 or season 5, where it has Riley in the continuum. Is it the continuum? Those ones, and with Adam is the overall baddie. That's kind of a crappy season too. But it's laced with so much goodness dealing with Spike, which kind of helps.
And that's like the David Boreas?
No, he's Angel.
Oh, he's Angel. Okay.
I'm totally drawing a blank on James. He does Spike. Probably my favorite character. Starts as a villain.
It's like a redemption arc kind of thing.
Sort of. He gets an inhibitor chip that's put in his brain.
Oh, okay.
The continuum. It's not the continuum, but this military organization is trying to catch and essentially neuter these bad guys, and Spike gets neutered, and so he can no longer attack. And so he's very upset. There's a whole performance anxiety. He's trying to get therapy through Willow, and because he's trying to attack Willow, and she's like, "What happens to a lot of guys?" And it's just the underlying humor that is there is so good. And I know a lot of people are angry with Joss Whedon lately, but his writing was so good in those shows. The little things that was said. There's one scene where there's, I think this is an angel. No,
this is turning into the Buffy episode. But go on.
Well,
go on.
But there's one scene where the guy's like, Spike is trying to track Buffy, and because he can smell the blood, and this one guy's with him, and he's like, "What does it smell like?" And he's like, "Well, have you ever put a penny in your mouth?" And he's like, "Yeah, it kind of smells like that." And so then they're walking around, and it's like, "Oh, it's getting stronger over here." And so the guy's like a nickel? And it's just those little things, the little lines that are in there, and a lot of those little lines are the same things that you find in Firefly. That is what I think made the show so good.
Right, things that make the characters endearing.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you must like Spike, because when I pulled out the Unmatched series, like I have the Buffy set for that. Yep. Right, and you were like, "I'm playing Spike."
Yep. Yeah.
You were Spike all the way. Is another one to maybe cover are those Unmatched games, because they do have Buffy,
scope.
Right? And then they've got a lot of stuff that exists in the public realm.
Yep.
But they covered Jurassic Park. They've got Bruce Lee. They're kind of covering a bunch of that stuff that's pulled from media as well. A lot of fun with the Unmatched games. Okay, we can't have this conversation without talking about Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
So we got to talk about Lord of the Rings for a minute. Another franchise or another IP, property, whatever, that is full of some good and some bad.
Yep.
Journeys in Middle-earth, amazing, so good. Really, in a lot of ways, very similar to Imperial Assault, just Lord of the Rings, although different enough that it's definitely a distinguishable title. It's not like a
different.
Reskin or anything like that at all. Plus, where Imperial Assault had the app that kind of came as an afterthought, Journeys in Middle-earth was built with the app in mind from the ground up, and just does it phenomenally well. That app works well. The music that it plays, the story that it tells, the way it tracks your campaigning characters and everything is really, really good.
Yes.
We love Journeys to Middle-earth. I recently picked up Adventure to Mount Dune. Adventure to Mount Doom. Which
crossing some themes there.
Yeah, crossing some IPs. Very simple game, but one that I thoroughly enjoyed playing with my boys. Yeah. Roll the dice and make decisions on moving the party as it basically goes from, I forget if it's the Shire or Riverdale, but it starts in one of those Rivendell. Again, Riverdale. Now I'm crossing over into the whole Riverdale series, and anyway, Rivendell. But it's that journey into Mount Doom. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And then there's also another little game that I enjoyed. It's Journey to Mordor, which is a really simple roll and write game, where you are trying to race the Fellowship, or really it's the four hobbits. You're trying to race, the four hobbits are racing to Mount Doom while the Nazgul are basically hunting them down. And there's 2 tracks on the little pad of paper, and it's just whoever can get there first.
Right. Whoever gets to Mount Doom. Or Dune.
Or Dune.
So
Mount Doom or Dune. He can throw it in the fire, or he can
sandworm.
Yeah. He can throw it into the fire or into Shai Hulud's mouth.
Yes.
Either way is acceptable. Either way would probably destroy it, if we're being honest. So, Lord of the Rings game I haven't tried yet. War of the Ring.
It's one I'd like to try.
Yeah, really want to try that. I have a ton of the Lord of the Rings living card game or the card game stuff, and I have not had a chance to play that very much. I played a little bit, dabbled in the early stuff, but I've got a lot that I want to play and experience there as well. So, got a lot of good Lord of the Rings stuff to look forward to.
Sounds awesome. There are a couple movies that I was really excited that they transferred from media to board game. One that's a winner, Big Trouble in Little China, the board game. Big Trouble in Little China, the board game, did a fantastic job of transitioning that movie.
So you have said. Yep.
Yes. One of my all-time favorite cult classic films, They Live. I still haven't opened because I'm very scared that is a dud.
Bummer.
I loved that show. Great cult classic. But yeah, I'm really scared of that game. It does have a card game, smaller version of kind of like in the realm of Coup or werewolf type style. Might be better. But at some point I need to break out They Live Assault on Cable 54 and see if it's as bad as I fear, or maybe I'll enjoy it. But
only one way to find out.
Yeah.
You got to pull that shrink off.
Yeah. And then another one that's done really well is The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31.
We did play that one. It's been a little while.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one quite a bit. Probably because I won. I got on the helicopter and got off as the parasite, the alien.
Parasite,
yeah. It was a good one. Good times were definitely had.
That's still a really good game, even when you lose.
Here's a video game franchise, Fallout. Have you ever played any of those video games?
I have not. I kind of gave up on video games about 10 years ago because I had school and work, and I just didn't have time to keep up on World of Warcraft. And World of Warcraft ate up all of my screen time.
Yes, yeah.
And it's the hardest game I ever quit. And I still have flashbacks and quitter's regret.
You've got a lot of those theme songs on the music that you sometimes play in the background at game night. And every time one of those, like especially like the Stormwind theme song comes on, it's like, oh, I want to go log in and go on a raid.
Or the load screen, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Jeez, where did that come from? Oh, yeah. Actually, we could talk about World of Warcraft. The only World of Warcraft adaptation that I've played is the Pandemic System World of Warcraft, which I loved. I actually thought it was really good, and it's set in Northrend, which was my favorite. That's an excellent game. Now, that Pandemic System has also spawned like the Clone Wars, and I think they've got some others in the works where they're kind of adapting some of those like IPs to that Pandemic System style game. Back to Fallout. I really loved Fallout 3. I didn't play the first two. They were they were older and a little bit before my time, but I really liked Fallout 3. Fallout 3 New Vegas was phenomenal. Really loved that. And Fallout 4 was pretty good. I think it suffered from some writing, but it was still, the mechanisms in it were still pretty good. I've liked that. Now, I haven't played any of the tabletop stuff. Like, I haven't played the RPGs. I haven't played the board games. I haven't played any of that. But the Fallout franchise spawned a little game called Fallout Shelter. Played on your phone or tablet. They did have, I think, like a Steam version of it. But it was basically where you're just trying to build your little shelter of vault dwellers, right? And raise their proficiencies and send them out into the wasteland to bring back cool stuff for you to craft with. It was
cool artifacts.
Pretty simple. They made a board game version of this, Fallout Shelter, the board game, that I really love.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Uses cards to represent the different rooms down in the vault. Each character kind of gets their own level of the vault, and you kind of build that out. Actually, been a little while since I played, but it's essentially a worker placement game, placing your little Pip-Boy figurines into the different spots in the different rooms and carrying out actions, and you can gain guns and ammo and gear and gifts and all kinds of different stuff, like all the stuff that you would find in the game. It's all very thematic and fun. I really like that as a Fallout game. Now, I would actually really like to try Fallout the board game. I've heard that it's pretty good. I've heard that it is better with the expansion that comes with it. Like it's kind of fixed a little bit. That's one that I like to explore just a little bit more.
Staying in that video game, Age of Wonders, Planetfall is a video game remake. I haven't played the video game. We haven't played the board game version either. Gears of War, the card game. Gears of War is a game I did play when it first came out, and I haven't played this card game. I've heard that it's kind of not amazing. It's one that I picked up and wanted to give it a try because if it's a simple card game and done well, great. Because there's a lot of things that I haven't seen, like Battlestar Galactica game I really very much enjoy. TV show that I've never really seen. I haven't seen any of it, actually.
Of which one?
The remake of the Battlestar, like the original 70s version I saw. Right.
I forget that that's a remake because it still feels old.
Yeah, it is old. It's a remake of an even older, which is something I've never seen, but the board game is one of my favorites. So
cool. And
then I guess one final one that I want to mention, Beowulf, the Legend. And I think I got you to play this. This is a story you're following along with Beowulf. You're kind of on his coattails, trying to help him as he goes through the saga of Beowulf. And you're fighting, is it Grendel and the Sea Witch and the Dragon. Yeah. I really like this game. It's an older game, but it follows the poem of Beowulf.
Nice.
That's one that a little bit in the same line of that Arkham Horror theme. So
I would like to try that. I don't know who you played it with, but it wasn't me. I actually haven't played that one. Yeah, but that sounds really good. I love Beowulf. It was one of my favorite literary works. I remember studying that back in high school, and it's always kind of stuck with me. I love the story of Beowulf. It's really awesome.
We'll bust that out.
Cool. I've actually got a ton more on my list. We'll have to probably cut it short. But I mean, there's some Jurassic Park stuff we could have talked about. I want to play the Legacy of Issa Nublar, which is the Legacy game. We haven't talked about Harry Potter much, which the Hogwarts Battle is great. Defense Against the Dark Arts is really fun. It's a 2-player kind of head-to-head game. I thoroughly enjoy the Goonies, Never Say Die.
That's one I'd like to try.
Pretty simple little dungeon crawl, but it kind of follows the story. I guess I should say the chapters that you play through in the game follow the story of the movie. We played through the first 2 or 3 of those, and then we stopped because we just could. That was with a group that we weren't playing anymore. But it's one I've always wanted to go back to and pick back up. Recently, we played Halloween.
Yes.
Which is actually a really fun hidden role game. The villain isn't so hidden all the time. They kind of have to reveal themselves and make their attacks, and it actually creates a lot of fun kind of stress at the table. I could talk a little bit about Horrified, which the original uses those universal monsters as kind of the inspiration, which is really fun. We didn't touch on Marvel and DC nearly as much as we should have. All those comics brought over
Star Wars that much either.
Yeah, for real. I mean, we could fill a whole episode with Star Wars.
Yes.
So that's probably okay. But we could also fill a whole episode with Marvel. All of the Marvel games, Marvel Champions, Marvel Dice Throne, Marvel United. I mean, we've played a ton of Marvel stuff.
Yes.
Couple more video games that got brought over, Monster Hunter World and Frostpunk, which are ones that I really want to play. And we also had a great time playing the Elder Scrolls. We did play that one. I haven't played Monster Hunter World or Frostpunk. Those are in the future, but we had a great time playing through the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, the board game campaign, which I thought was really, really great. Of course, you've got the Stranger Things game, the Upside Down game that just came out recently that I really want to try. There's a couple of The Witcher games, which
it's supposed to be really good.
I'm not very familiar with the source material. I did play the original Witcher video game clear back in the day. I played a lot of that. Never really got into it from there. I know the TV series was really popular. I haven't watched that, but I heard that it was really good. But The Witcher: The Old World is one that we played here, I don't know, a few months back. Andy and Dave and I played that one and actually really liked it. That's a very, very good game. And then I'm super excited about Deceased, which is the really DC version of Zombicide that's coming out. And I'll just wrap it up with the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era, the big Chip Theory Games Elder Scrolls game that will be hitting hopefully later this year. And I can't wait for that. So,
well, some good stuff. I didn't even get to my top 10. Didn't get to a lot of these games.
That's okay.
Still,
well,
great episode.
And I've still got plenty on my list that we could come back to if we wanted to record a second episode. So yeah. We could probably be here for another hour at least if we really wanted to.
Yeah.
Ultimately, though, Nathan, I think what it comes down to for me, I just love it when company or whatever, designers or the publisher or whatever, when they can take one of these IPs that has a lot of nostalgia, is meaningful, whether it's the cultural zeitgeist or maybe just the nerd culture zeitgeist, right? When it can take something that's important to us kind of culturally, something that we have that nostalgia for, when they can take that and do it right, pay it proper homage and do it justice and bring it to the table. Those are some pretty sweet experiences. Some of the best board game experiences, I think, when you get that really fun crossover, because so much of that theme is tied to other memories and other experiences associated with that. I mean, again, going back to Star Wars, I mean, what an integral part of our childhood. So if you can take something like Star Wars and bring it to the tabletop in a really great and meaningful way, that's going to be one of the best experiences you could have.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully more to come, and maybe we'll have to revisit this list in the future.
If you're interested in more of our media to board games, let us know. Reach out to us at meeplenation@gmail.com. Maybe give us some of your games that you felt were great transitions from the media world to the board game world.
Until next time.
We'll see you eating some popcorn, watching a movie, playing a game. Could it all be the same at the game table?
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/MeepleNation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of Werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com/Meeple_nation, or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage, or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.